Hi, Megan. Thank you for joining me for another juicy conversation about
Hello.
holistic health. Yeah.
I am so pleased. This is going to be fun.
Yes, it is. So I wanted to have this conversation with you because I just came out of my first liver cleanse ever, and I received the protocol from you because you generously, very generously shared exactly what you do for this liver cleanse every spring, and that you've been doing it how many years now? Uh,
8 years.
Yeah, 8 years, and I read the email, and I was completely inspired, and it felt in total alignment, and it was that week, I think it was a couple days after that, that I was gonna be easy actually, I think I was already easing in to a cleanse, and
Hmm.
it was the alignment was just like, "Doo," right? The heavens opened up and was singing, "This is what you need, Neve," and I did it, and I have so many things to share and ask you and, like but first, just gratitude. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. Uh,
Yeah, you're welcome. You're very welcome.
yeah, so
Uh,
go ahead.
no, just I feel the same way toward my teach, like the person who taught me. I'm like, this is such a great thing, and to be able, there's so many people, so many friends of mine who at first were like, this is really weird. What are you doing? But then people who've tried it over the years, they're like, thank you. That was a really powerful process.
Yeah, and for anyone listening, I am a little ballsy. I'm kind of, I just jump into things. So it is a pretty serious, intense cleanse if you're not really a cleanser. If you are a cleanser, I feel like it's pretty normal.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. It is the way that my teacher described it to me, and it was Shakti Mai, who was my yoga teacher, and she still teaches this in Israel's where she lives now. She was in Canada when I first met her. And one of the things that she said was there are two ways to get these stones out of your body, and one is surgery, and the other is this cleanse. And so she said, think of it as seriously as you would surgery, in the
Mm,
sense that your body, you're giving your body the time and space to do something which is important and challenging and intense.
I love that
So,
because
yeah.
yeah, it was all of those things for me. And I did when I saw the pictures of your stones or pre-stones that,
Mm.
came out of your body, that picture, I was like, Megan is healthier than me. If she's getting these stones out, then I definitely have them and need to be doing this because I don't want a surgery. I don't want something invasive. I would much rather, I'm all about preventative, holistic uh, tactics,
Mhm.
practices, right? All, Ayurveda, living Ayurveda is that. So yeah, I was like, yes, this is it. So so she led you on your first one? Were you part of her group?
No, she didn't lead it that year. She had, however, this was what I met her 10 years ago, and she instructed, and I think it would have been in like September, October of 10 years ago, that she did a whole day on the importance of the liver as an organ in our body,
Mm,
and how to do this liver cleanse flush, because it's liver and gallbladder are involved, but she always called it the liver cleanse. And she had been living in Vancouver for about over 20 years teaching yoga there, and she'd been taking groups through this at least every spring, if not spring and fall. And she recommended doing it like, and she said in her ideal world, she'd do it like 4 times a year, but she'd been leading groups of her yoga students through it. And so when I did the actual teacher training with her, there wasn't time for everybody to stop doing teacher training for 7 days and do a cleanse. But
right.
so she gave us all the information and talked about the importance of the liver. And I'd never heard of anything like this before. And it took me like another year before I did it. So, I mean, I guess once I do it this spring, I guess it'll be 9 years that I've done it. But I didn't do it that first year. I needed, because I was also traveling, and I was like, I don't know what this is. And I'd like to be in a place that is mine, that I'm not visiting other people when I do this. But one of the things that really stuck out for me was the liver. She said part of what's interesting about the liver is that like scientists, researchers, doctors don't really know what it does. Like they know it does over 500 things, but they don't know how it does it. And they can't replicate it, and they can't replace it.
Wow.
And so taking care of your liver is paramount. Like, yes, you want to keep all your organs ideally, but if there's something wrong with your heart, they can put in a pacemaker, they can change valves out, they can put stents in. If there's something wrong with your kidneys, they can do dialysis, not forever, and you can get a replacement kidney from someone else. If there's something wrong with your pancreas and they have to take it out, you can live. Your gallbladder can be removed and you can live. Your entire intestine can come out and you can still live. If your liver gets too infected with or diseased with cancer or something else, cirrhosis, it's over.
Mhm.
They can't help you because it's such a complex organ.
Wow.
And so the health of the liver is really important. And that's part of what convinced me to try this thing that at the time I was like, this sounds like it's a lot and I don't know about cleansing. This was, 10 years ago. I don't know what that means. And can I do it? And is because I've always thought of my body as sensitive. Will my sensitive little body be able to do it? Because she seemed really robust to me as a person.
Mhm.
That I was like, I don't know, is this for me? And can I trust it? And all those things.
Yeah. Well, so the liver, that's so interesting. So it is a liver cleanse, and the stones that come out, or those little peas, I don't know what to refer to them. They look like little smushed up peas, kind
Yeah,
of.
they do.
Those come out of, they're from the gallbladder. Is-
Well, there's two theories on this.
Okay. All
One
right.
is that they're biliary stones that are actually releasing from the liver itself. And that the liver has these, like, because the liver has different, what's the word? Not, I'm missing the word now, like lobes. It has different lobes. And inside the lobes, there are also these channels. And that one of the explanations that I read up on and looked into was that these little green peas are mostly cholesterol, and that that's partially how the liver captures it and encapsulates it so that, like, to take it out of the rest of your system. But the liver then has a problem dumping them.
Mm.
And so, especially in our modern day society, those can be also toxins from the air we breathe, the water that touches our skin, products that touch our skin, like anything the liver is trying to keep from going into the rest of our system, it will encapsulate and hold on to, and it becomes a biliary stone. And these are biliary stones, was one explanation that I read. The other is that they are coming out of the gallbladder. And having looked at a bunch of pictures, I have seen little green stones that people have said are from the gallbladder and ones they've said are from the liver. So they are either liver stones or they're gallstones. In a way, I don't really care if they're coming out. I'd rather have them out than in, but as I'm not a medical professional in that sense, I don't know. And as soon as you Google liver cleanse online, you find a whole bunch of people saying, don't do this. It's rubbish. There's no reason to do this. Like, there's tons of articles that say don't do this. But then there's books and people and testimonials that all say, this is great. This is helpful.
I mean, I felt, well, when I had my purge day, obviously I felt pretty weak
Mm-hmm.
day, and I was really tired and really hungry the next day and unsure exactly what to start putting in my body because I didn't really want anything. So I kind of, the morning I was very tired in that day after morning. But Monday, the last 3 days, I have felt like high as a kite, like
Yeah.
totally sober, totally high off of life and my body and my energy, and like feeling super vital, super inspired, like proud of myself, like so proud of myself for getting whatever it is, whether it's liver or gallbladder, getting those things out, like making it through the cleanse. And it's really not, it wasn't, you know, the first, what was it? The second and third day, I had emotional breakdowns in the evening
Mm.
because I just haven't gone that deep. I haven't gone, and I kind of knew it was going to happen. My son was comforting me and my husband was comforting me, and I was like, I'm sorry, guys. I know I'm releasing. Like, I'm like crying. Ah. But I think then it was like a turning point, and I felt fine while I was, just eating veggies and fruit, and I did feel a little uh I felt like I was always a little bit hungry. But
Mm-hmm.
that's, I think, normal as well, at least for my first time doing this. What would you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the the protocol itself, again, like the one that I do and that I've written up with my notes, um, is 7 days from start to finish. So it's 5 days of eating fruit and veg and not really nothing else. And
Not
then day 6 is the flush day, but this so that there's a protocol that has to be followed on day 6, and then day 7 is when the stones come out. And so that's this, usually it would be like Monday to Sunday, just because most people it works for the weekend, but it can be any day of the week if it works for you. So then when you say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like since like Monday your hunger came back, Monday your energy came in. That's really normal to have that happen. Um, but again, like when my teacher first started doing it, she did 2 weeks. She started 2 weeks before, so it was 12 days of eating nothing but fruit and veg, and then the last 2 days were the flush. But she said over time she found her students, her people, didn't have the stamina for it anymore.
mm,
As everything got people got busier and more stressed and everything was happening, they couldn't fast for 12 days and not be too they were too depleted to then do the flush. So I'll just throw that out there for people. The 5 days is a suggestion, and I wouldn't go any less than that, but you can go more if for some reason that appeals to somebody. But the that was my experience too. The first time, the second time, the third time, that it was this rejuvenation effect that happened afterwards, and how bright I felt and how my energy changed. And one of the things that I was looking for, and which did happen over time, and I'll just see if I can get in the light correctly. There's two little lines, those little lines in between the eyebrows, right?
mhm.
Like equal signs
Yeah,
going
the 11
there.
lines, 11
Yeah,
lines. Yeah, yeah.
yes, 11 lines. Those used to be, even when my face was relaxed, they were present.
Mm,
And one of the things that had been mentioned was that if you work on helping the liver, that those lines may disappear.
pretty
And
much.
so I can make them, I can furrow my brow and there they are, but they used to be there all the time.
I think I have faint ones. See them?
Yep.
Faint. So maybe after a few more liver cleanses, they'll disappear.
Yep.
How
They
about
just, yeah, it's really some of the signs, and also your eyes, like the eyes get really bright. And I know the quality of the whites of my eyes definitely got whiter over time, of doing these things. And that depends on the person. Some people already have been doing a lot of work on themselves, and are eating the way their body wants, and their eyes are already white. But the eyes, you think of jaundice, when a baby's jaundice, it's liver problems and the eyes go yellow. So again, when the liver is vibrant and clean and happy, the eyes are clear and white, and the color is good. So all of these things go back to, yeah, like, why do I keep doing it? Because I have this great feeling afterwards that's so vital.
right? And basic Ayurveda is cleansing at least in the spring and the fall. So I have been doing that for years, and it has been suggested to me to do more of this juicing or master cleanse, or right, one of these lighter, like to release the excess from winter in the spring. But I mentioned to you earlier, I just never felt I wasn't grounded enough. I never
Mm,
felt called into this lighter cleanse. Like, I think that my anxiety and my vatas wasn't in a good place. And now I'm very grounded. And it was like, yes, this is what, when I got your email, I was like, yes, this is the way. Go this way. This is exactly what you need, Neve. And I'm so grateful, because
mm,
it's true. I was like looking at my eyes, I was looking at my tongue, and I still have more cleansing to do. I have definitely more work, more stuff to get out of my system from
mhm,
the abuse I put my poor body through in my 20s. But yeah, I felt so good. I love that feeling of when, especially just the natural high, that Ananda Maya Kosha, being in the bliss body.
mm,
I was like so goofy and silly, and I did something that wasn't in your protocol, which I was bleeding the week of my
mm,
cleanse. And so I did menstrual blood face masks every day,
mm,
because I wanted to play with that. And it was super witchy. And it was like when I had first gotten into urine therapy, because I was like, "Ooh, this is coming out of my body and I can use it." And it feels so good. My skin felt so soft every day. Partially, I'm sure from what I was not eating, what I was eating.
Yeah.
Also doing this menstrual blood mask. I don't know if you've ever done that, but there's like a
Yeah.
wave of young people that are super into it right now. So I've
Mm.
been seeing it on the social media and I was like, I'm just gonna try it. So that was
Yeah.
fun.
It is. Well, that's another one where I have done that. First of all, I mean, the urine on the skin anyway, urine is like the most moisturizing thing for skin. It's absolutely amazing. But menstrual blood also has all that iron in it, right? It has other things that are in it. And I have also found that my skin just sucks it up. It just loves it. So when I can do that last year or so, I've done some of those too. And I agree. It feels witchy. It feels ancestral. It feels this deep connection to all of the people who came before us, and also the skin likes it.
Skin loves it. My skin loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it feels like we are remembering. That's how it feels. It's like, oh, yeah, and I liked the iron smell. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I feel like this is what my face wants. Like, and it started to clear up because when I first started the cleanse, I totally broke out. I think purging and releasing.
Yep.
I was doing urine therapy, looping, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I was drinking and looping it. And so I was getting a lot of stuff out of my skin. And I started using the mask and it started clearing up what had been released, which was kind of cool.
Mm. There's a couple of people that I've started to follow a bit more of what they do, and there's one woman who's a has a great amount of ancestral wisdom passed down to her, and she shares it. She's on Instagram as Mistletoe 1981, and um, her name is Kara. I'm not sure where she lives in the world, but she often talks about the sexual fluids, so urine, blood for women, that these are deep, deep connectors to our ancestors and to the DNA, the perfection of the DNA that we had when we were born, and that's one of the reasons on a spiritual level that when we engage with urine, but also with the blood, that it's almost like a reset. It reminds our body of where we started when we incarnated, when we came in, and so that blueprint of that perfection of us when we came in is still available to us and keeps we can keep reminding the body of that blueprint.
Mm. I love that, and it totally lands. Like it felt like it hit my heart and then went boom, 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 like to my womb. Like it was cool, energetically what I felt when you shared
Yeah.
that. And it doesn't surprise me that in a week from now I'm going on a sexual, spiritual, shamanic healing training, right?
Mm,
And then I think because of this year in therapy could be one of the key factors. One is I think I mentioned it to you, some of the psychic things. One's feeling really called, but I think, yeah, ancestral and shamanic, and it feels like we're reclaiming so much that was lost
yeah.
in our pee, in our blood, in our spirits, and being a woman and now and stepping
Mm,
into this like, oh yeah, I am the medicine woman.
mm. Yeah, I
She
get shivers from that. Yeah.
oh good. Good shivers. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, your protocol does include um urine therapy, but you don't need to do urine therapy to do a liver cleanse.
Exactly. I didn't do that the first couple of years. I was doing urine therapy, so I would have still been drinking my urine or rubbing it on my body a bit while I did the cleanse, but I wasn't thinking of it as a way to help me through it. And especially the first year I'd been doing urine therapy for like a year and a bit. So I wasn't as grounded in the practices as I am now. And the
Mhm.
last year when I did the liver cleanse, I just added so much of my urine back into my body and used it for the enemas and did some coffee enemas too. But the aged urine, it one of the things that I looked into was why are we doing the coffee enema? And part of it is to stimulate the vagus nerve. Because the vagus nerve is accessible through the colon, and the vagus nerve goes to the liver and helps to tonify or like give the liver signals. And the result is supposed to be, you use a coffee enema, it helps the liver know that it's okay to let go of things, and it gives it some of the I don't know, tonifying, that's the word that keeps coming to me. Um, and so the coffee enema, that was part of the purpose of it. And I don't find coffee enemas difficult or problematic. Some people say they make them a little bit like they feel the caffeine. I usually sweat if I drink a cup of coffee, but I can do a coffee enema and I don't sweat. So I don't know what's going on with that. What's the difference between one or the other? I don't know. Um, but then a friend, someone that I know as a friend, but also a colleague, Darlene Tian, she has been doing her PhD in urine therapy, and she's on a lot of Brother Sage's calls. If anyone's listening to this and going, "Oh yeah, I've seen her before," yeah, you probably have. She lives close to me, and I had told her about urine therapy, so she got started on it and decided to do her PhD on it. And part of her research involved giving her research, like her case studies, 20 milliliters of aged urine every day. And these are people who'd never done urine therapy, just even normal fresh urine therapy. And she started with 20 milliliters in the colon, like putting it with a syringe, like a little tiny plastic thing. And that's the only thing they changed in their world, except for some breath work. She
Mm,
wanted to give their body a chance to like expand with the energy and like work the energy and integrate it. But otherwise, it was don't change what you eat, don't change how you sleep, don't change your exercise. Like, please keep everything the same. I need to know what the urine's doing.
mhm,
And all 12 people, and she did live blood, dried blood, she did other testing, whatever testing she could do in her line of work, which is quite a bit. But anyway, that's what she was doing, was testing them before, during, and after. And every single person had a reduced inflammation in the liver.
mm,
And so that connection between the vagus nerve and the colon and the liver was very obvious. It's working.
mhm.
The aged urine is helping the liver to release inflammation. And so then I still do use a coffee, but I can't do 5 coffee enemas in like 5 days in a row. It's a bit too much for me. And so then it turned into a fresh and aged urine enema one day, and then a coffee enema, and then fresh and aged urine and a coffee enema, alternating those through. And that worked really well. And I think last time, I think maybe I only did 2 coffee enemas over the course of the week. And I really felt like the aged urine was doing the rest of it. Um, and when you use urine for an enema as well, it's hydrating your system. It's not stripping it. And water doesn't hydrate your intestine. Oil will, and urine will, but water won't. Water just pulls everything out, or flushes in that sense. But the urine flushes and pulls, and it's magnetic, and it's, especially if it's aged, then it's also really alkaline and negatively charged ionically. So you have this, it's almost like a magnet. So you put the urine and the aged urine into the colon, and depending on how far up it gets, especially when you're not eating very much, anything that's positively charged, which is what we want to leave the body, gets pulled toward the urine almost like a magnet. And it just, my experience is it really does pull more out of my body than a water enema.
Yeah, it felt like that. I mean, I had not done evolved urine or aged urine enemas yet. It was like on my to-do list. And that's one of those things that when it's on your to-do list, it's been on there for like a year and a half. I mean, it's been on
Yeah.
there for a while, but it's not the most enticing thing to like go try. Like, yeah,
No.
go do this. Well, I didn't think so. I mean, but now that I've done it, and I didn't do a coffee one. I didn't really feel, I felt like I should probably try a coffee one, but I didn't actually end
Mhm.
up doing one because I think it was like the timing or
Yeah.
something. But
Hmm.
obviously it was okay. The process still worked.
Yes.
And I would like to try a coffee one next time I do it because I had the intention. It
Mm.
didn't line up.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was very good. The aged urine, the aged urine in my butt was so good.
I know
The,
we say the weirdest things, don't
the
we?
things
Very
we
strange
talk about,
sentences.
the things we talk about.
Yeah. No,
Extreme
I'm
talking
glad
about
to hear that though. Yeah, that like
it. Mhm.
your experience is the same, and that's part of the reason we need to, like, we end up talking about it, and people often want to talk about their experience with urine because they're like, is this normal? I'm having this experience. I talked to somebody recently who has been living a very clean life, like way cleaner in that sense. I'm like, whoa, you're really on the like keeping the temple clean. And they shared with me that they've been doing enemas for years, but they started doing urine enemas and the difference in their body immediately, because I think they're so light in what they eat, what they take in, they noticed it right away. And without any prompting or having read any books or anything, they came to the conclusion that the urine was hydrating through the colon, through the intestine, that it was not stripping the microbiome, it was not stripping out the good bacteria, and they could feel the difference. They're like, why would I ever go back to water?
Mm.
I'm like, okay, like I was so glad they shared that, because their sensitivity and their the availability that they have to sense a change was so high. Like, I agree with you, but it's wonderful to hear you say it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really cool. Yeah, that's one thing. So, what is your practice right now? Is it once a week or every day? How often do you use aged urine enemas and just like your
Right.
life?
I d- I've just gone through 3 months where I actually struggled the most I've struggled probably in the last 6 or 7 years to drop into fasting. And so it's been a weird 3 months actually, because normally it's really easy for me. Um, so I would here's part of what's going on. I do a basti every day. I do a urine basti. So basti is I'm borrowing that word from Ayurveda, where they do an oil basti. So it's like an implant of oil in the colon, rectum, colon at night, and the idea is that it will go in and hydrate. And if it doesn't need to use the oil, a little bit might come out the next morning when you stand up, but really it should all get absorbed. And a lot of people do these bastis with oil. And so there is no word for a urine implant, and it sounds awful. And so basti is a much nicer word to use. So urine basti is what I've been saying, and what people who are part of some of the communities I talk to have been saying. And that is 10 to 20 milliliters. It can be more. I mean, I've gone up to 60, 70 milliliters in the morning, but I do that every single day. So I'm constantly putting a little bit of highly alkaline, negatively charged, um, evolved aged urine, or orin, or we can call this Shivambu practice. There's so many different ways you can term this. And I have been doing that every day for 4.5 years. So yeah, it's one of the things I really wouldn't be without,
Mm.
because it just feels like it keeps a base level going. Um, and I know that it's helping my organs through the vagus nerve, through the portal vein, through a couple things that land in that rectum colon area. And every now and again, like once or twice a month, I put this tiny amount, because 10 milliliters is less than a tablespoon. A tablespoon is 15. If you think of how big a tablespoon is. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
not that
like
big.
no, I do probably about 15, but somewhere between 10 and 20 every day. And about twice a month, within an hour, maybe it's 15 minutes later, maybe it's an hour later, I get this like need to release. But when I go to the bathroom, almost nothing comes out. It's very little, but it usually smells.
Hmm.
And so I know that that bit of urine went hunting, and it found
Oh,
something and
like,
pulled. Yeah,
yeah.
it
Wow.
suctioned it out.
Wow.
So, and I find that is also really helpful, just to know that like my body is taking care of itself in the way that it wants to as it works with the Shivambu. So it this because I do that every day, I've gotten lazy with my enemas.
Mhm.
But like I did, now talking about that, I did one yesterday and one today, because I'm fasting at the moment, so I'm right back into it and loving it.
Okay. Well, I was curious, like what would be the protocol? So, urine bossy,
Yep.
call it a urine bossy every night is you have found to be really highly beneficial
First thing in the morning.
first thing in the morning.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it at night, because you're stimulating that whole area, and then it might pull something out in the next hour. So if you're trying to go to sleep, it's not ideal for me. Someone else might find a way to do it every night. Absolutely. There's no reason not to, that I know of, other than it is quite stimulating, to the body in that way. So I mean, I do mine in the morning as part of my morning protocols. I, usually do that before I do my full body rub of things that I'm and my cold shower and all that stuff.
Okay. And so if you're in the shower, you could just squirt some up there
Yep.
and that would work too.
Yep. Some people have to sort of figure out whether they're going to put one foot on the edge of the tub and sort of use the other hand to kind of move a butt cheek out of the way. There's a couple different ways that people do that. It's funny. I'm just mentioning it because I get questions. People are like,
Yeah.
"How am I supposed to do this?" And it's really just that simple. And you don't need the simplest little plastic syringe that they will give you most of the time. If I go into a pharmacy or it's a pharmacy in Canada, but like they sell all different things. I can't think of the names of the ones in the States that I've been to.
CVS, Walgreens.
Yes, yes, exactly. Those CVS, Walgreens in Canada, Shoppers Drug Mart, and Lawton's Drugs, things like that. And I usually just go up to the pharmacy counter and say, "Do you have any little syringes like the ones you would give for medicine to babies with?
Mm.
And how much are they?" And usually they just like reach behind the counter and hand me one. So like I have not paid for one in years, and I'm still using the same one that I started using 10 years ago because I just rinse it out with soapy water every day.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too, because I do snort the evolved urine because I've heard that that helps decalcify the pineal gland.
Yep.
I feel it. I can feel it like moving through my sinuses and like, I guess up into my brain is how it feels to me. And it feels so good. It feels like I'm clearing the channels uh,
Yeah.
of energy and of consciousness of physically through my body. So is that a practice you also do or?
Yes, every day.
Yeah.
Every day. But are you so one of the things that we both do is in different ways, but you had mentioned like putting your head down,
Yeah.
like
So I
snorting
like
it and putting your head down.
to,
And so explain what that feels like when you do that.
it feels like it's moving up and like, yeah, like tingling and clearing through my whole brain. I don't know, my whole crown chakra.
Yep.
Energetically, it feels amazing. Like I'm glad I get to talk to someone about it because I'm like, come on, people, let's do this. Let's snort our HP. It's great. And everyone's like, you're crazy. I'm like,
Yep.
well, actually, it feels really amazing. It feels so healing. It feels so good. What does it feel like to you?
It
Pushing over?
so again, yeah, it's like, well, this is one of the things where there's different, we say snorting, but it's like any way you can get the urine, you can neti with urine, fresh or aged. You can, although I generally would probably do fresh for that. The thing with the evolved or aged urine is that different jars will have different potencies. And so sometimes I hit a jar where one drop will make my eyes water. And so I don't force 2 to 3 milliliters of that into my sinuses because it's going to feel like wasabi.
Mm-hmm.
I do mean like it gets super intense and then it just fades away.
Yeah.
So
Hobby.
it's okay, but I do prefer the jars that don't cause me to like tears to stream down my face. That's not necessary every day. So we go back to this idea of like we don't have to be in pain for it to be doing something. That's
Right.
not necessary. And you can't regulate your nervous system and stay in, the parasympathetic nervous system if you feel like you're fighting for life and death because
Right.
something has exploded in the front of your face. So like let's just, because again, some people are like, I'm all in. And then they're like, wow, that was that. Do I really need to be in pain? No, you do not. Let me just reiterate. It does not have to be painful. So use fresh if the aged is painful. But either way, I started by putting a little bit in my hand and blocking one nostril and snorting it and just tipping my head back because that's what I'd learned how to do with salt water and just letting it drain down the back of my throat. But then I started using my little syringe. I have another one, and I actually put my head down on the floor, like the top of my head on the floor first, like as if you were in hands and knees, and just let the top of your head touch the floor. And then I put in to each nostril, and then I go, and then I start to feel it. I snort, and I start to feel it going up. And some days there's this flush of sensation, energy that can go all the way up the top of my head. So I roll around on the top of my head for a while, like 3 to 5 minutes with my head upside down. And by the time I bring my head back up, there's almost nothing that I need to blow out. but it's invigorating. Like if you're feeling stagnant mid-afternoon, that'll wake you up.
It
That
will.
gets you going.
Yeah.
Um,
I like the gem about moving your head around a little bit. I'm definitely gonna play with that and maybe try it while I'm already upside down. That
yep.
sounds like
And it's again, it's one of those things like this is the gateway to the rest of your body. Everything that passes through here
Mhm.
is going to set the tone for the microbiome, for the health of what's going on, your ability to smell, your ability to taste. Those are key indicators of health. So, like, I realize now that for years and years, I probably almost always had one nostril blocked and they would just change throughout the day. And now it's strange if I don't have both open.
Yeah. I hear you on that. I remember when I was in yoga teacher training and they talked about how one is more blocked during the day and then that it goes back and forth and the nadis, right? We were talking about all this energy and I'm like, wow, I forgot about that because I am breathing out. I neti with fresh in the morning because it's so convenient.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you? Uh which I love now because it takes way less time than boiling water and adding salt to it and then pouring it through your nose. Like, so I love that. But it's same thing. I snort it and go upside down. I never have anything dripping out. It's all getting up wherever it's supposed to. And I do like sometimes I'll spread my nostrils a little and kind of encourage it to go up. But I love that practice.
Yeah.
Have you had any colleagues or yourself or friends have anything crazy wild happen from snorting,
Yes.
putting it in the ears or eyes? Because people, yeah, I'd love to hear any cool stories around that. I know we were talking about liver cleansing and now we're back to urine, but there's so much fun stuff that happens with it.
Well, and it starts to prepare you in a sense for it, and they feed into each other. As I said, like the liver cleanse is much easier for me now that I have these other protocols in place with the urine, and I also think that the more the more that you work even just with cleansing, like then if someone has done a lot of cleansing, then bringing urine in, even though it's still weird and taboo and it could be disgusting at the beginning, they're more open to, well, I've challenged my body in other ways.
Yeah.
And I've had really good results. So I could try this. If I don't like it, I don't have to do it. It's just it's another thing to try if you want to. I think they're really related. Um, there are a couple people. There's one who has been very open with her story. She actually just snorted urine up the nose, aged urine, but she did a lot all at once the first time. Even though we'll come back to what I always tell people: go slowly.
Yeah. Proceed with caution.
Yes, do research, ask questions because urine is potent medicine. It's your medicine, but if you encourage the body and say I'm going to give you a lot of urine, the body goes, "Great, I've been waiting. I have all this stuff I'm ready to get rid of." And suddenly people have these healing opportunities or healing crises, depending on how you want to call them, but they can get scared. They can get scared by them. And so the go slowly is my best piece of advice. So one person did not go slowly, and she owns that. She ended up, her body decided to clear out black mold that had been in her somewhere in her sinuses or something, but it came out of her one ear for the
Wow.
next 9 months. And it
9.
was incredibly painful. And she had to learn how to irrigate her own ear canal to flush this black mold out. And the black mold was encased in like what we call a dysbiotic biofilm, which is like a mucus, because the body encapsulates the mold to push it out. And it was really difficult. It was not an easy process. And she, bless her for being so open about it, but it was a lot. And it really scared her. And the doctors had no idea what to do. Um, they thought it was a bacterial infection, but they actually swabbed it and they said, oh, it's not, it's black mold. So, I mean, better out than in,
Again.
but really intense, really intense. Somebody else recently came to me. They'd started, using the urine up the nose and they coughed up a couple times some mucus, and inside the mucus was some blood. And they went, oh, what's wrong? And so we talked about it. And again, this is where if you work with somebody, then you can talk about it. You can decide what you're comfortable with, what you're going to keep doing or stop doing. But they kept doing the same thing, and within 5 days, it never happened again. So there was something somewhere in this whole system where there was some leftover blood from some infection or something that had happened, or what do I know? But the body encapsulated it in some mucus and pushed it out when they started using urine. And then it never happened again.
Yeah. So fascinating.
Yeah. So this is what we see over and over again. The urine go, and what my teacher said, Shakti said, be aware the urine will go hunting. You're inviting it to do so, and it will go do it. So remember that you asked for this. If you start using this medicine, you've asked for a response from the body, which is hence the slow part. If you go slowly with urine, there's a much lower chance that the body will, generally the body takes a little bit in at a time and you build the tolerance up, and then you don't have a healing crisis every time you use it. That's not what happens over time. Over
Mhm.
time the body gets used to it. And then instead, because I use a lot of it every single day, over a few times a year, especially if I go into a fast or I do a spiritual thing, or I'm involved with some sort of intentionality, my body will choose to find something old. But it's because I'm inviting it. Again, I'm doing something else. I'm doing some sort of other process, and then the body still uses the urine to pull something out. You don't get to pick.
Yeah, I'm curious what's in my system that urine can go hunting for and pull out, because I feel like I've been very gentle with my approach, like really just on my skin for a while before I was like consuming it or snorting it or saving it. Now I have so many jars of aged urine that I'm like, well, I guess I can start. I need some more syringes.
Yeah. Well, and save at least one. Like, and again, like this is like use your intuition about which bottle feels to you like a special one for whatever reason. And it's just intuition. It does not, but pick one and save that one, and see if that one can be the one that now next year it'll be 2 years old.
Yeah, I have some that's like a year and a half old now. All of it has hit they've all been birthed. They've all gone through 9 months, I think. But I like that you mentioned earlier too, to smell them and kind of, feel which one would be good for snorting. Because I definitely have one that's super not as potent as the other ones. And it doesn't sting at all. It
Yes.
literally just feels like it's clearing and cleaning through my sinuses. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that was a really great gem too, is like have several and then find one that's not gonna put you in a healing crisis or cause you to cry. It doesn't have to be painful for sure.
No. And with the enema too, we sort of threw those out like fresh and aged. Again, like start with fresh. Mix some fresh into water first before, if you want to go slow and you're used to water, then build up to a whole enema with fresh. And then if you want to add some aged, add 1 tablespoon of aged to whatever you normally use for your enema. If you do 4 cups of liquid for an enema, add 1 tablespoon of aged and see if that works for you. And then work it up a little bit. But don't start with a cup of aged urine. That is a lot.
Yeah, I did not do that. So for the liver cleanse, there's an enema every day. And so that was the first time I've done aged urine. So I did fresh the first day, fresh the second day with a tiny little bit of aged. And I just added more aged to the fresh every
Lovely.
day. And it felt great. It felt easeful. It definitely eliminated, and I felt like it was very nourishing, quite
Good.
honestly. And I like, for me, warm. I think if it's going
Mhm.
in my butt, I like it to be warm. Um,
Right. So how did you warm it?
well, the fresh is already like the right temperature. So that was great. I was like, again, super convenient. I love the convenience of urine therapy. But I just put a little bit in a pot and just put it on the stove and just a little, like not very long, just enough to get to body temperature.
Yeah.
But I mean, I
Yeah.
probably could have put it under a candle and it would have done the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah. And or sometimes people will put them like even just in a metal bowl inside a bowl of hot water, because the
Oh,
metal will conduct the heat really quickly into it, or stick it in a Ziploc plastic bag and dunk that into a bowl of hot water. And that will just heat it gently that way too. There's so many, I mean, use your creativity with it, but there's so many ways to do that.
Yeah, well, it's I think enemas, if we can normalize enemas, that would be great because it's really self-care. It's really just basic self-care for your colon. And I know at 50, I think is when everybody does a colonoscopy. Is that
Hmm.
right? That's generally what Western medicine would advise.
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah, I mean, my family has had quite a few of those, so I'm used to people talking about them.
Yeah, so that is coming for us all if you're following Western medicine. So might as well clear it up in there. Get it a little.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I guess for liver, is there anything else with the liver cleanse that you would like to share?
So a great time to do it. We said the spring, and that's partially just because the organs, and whether you're using traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurveda, that is advised because the organs have all been sluggish in the winter, the liver in particular, and it gets it moving again. And things that are bitter help tonify the liver. So eating things that are bitter, so any of the greens that grow, those would be great to include in the cleanse. If you're eating greens, you could steam them, for example, and have your steamed nettle or any other wild greens that grow. Where I live, we still have 20 centimeters of snow, so I am not able to access any of that yet, but other people live further south. Um, and that's why there's bitters as part of
Oh yeah, the
um,
Swedish bitters.
the suggested things to be part of the protocol. Um, and again, it's because those bitter things used to be a real part of our diets and they're not anymore. And they're really good for the liver. So find, just in that sense, it's the first time it feels like a bit of an investment to buy a few things like an enema kit and Swedish bitters and Epsom salts that are the type that you can take internally. They're not the ones you use for the bathtub. Do not take Epsom salts from that are for the bathtub. Um,
Food
and
grade. Yeah.
food grade, yeah, food grade magnesium sulfate. And there's always like there's multiple, like all these things sort of interface, they come together. And the 5 days of prep, the way it was explained to me and what I felt in my body, the 5 days of prep are to let the liver do what it wants, to not tax it in any way, because it's constantly taxed by what we eat, the things we breathe in, all of that. So if we can take away, just digesting food is a huge amount of stress on the body. It takes a massive amount of energy. So the first time I did this cleanse, I ate all day. I had cut up fruit and veg with me everywhere, and I was eating a lot, especially for the first like probably 4 days. And then I calmed down a bit. Day 5, day 6, I was like, oh, I'm not actually that hungry anymore. I'm okay. But then at the end of it, I defied all the rules that you're supposed to follow and ate a massive bag of potato chips and felt fine. Actually, I'm surprised I felt so okay after doing that. But that's all I wanted, and that's what I did on the Sunday night. Wouldn't recommend it, but it's what I did. And the second year, it was very different already just in that second year. And we talked about, like you said, you had a few raisins, and I had a couple dates the first time I did it. By the second year doing it, I didn't even want the dates. And first 3 days I ate a lot of fruit and veg, and then I slowed down. By the fourth year, that started to change too. And so like even last year, I incorporated way more urine therapy into my protocol than I'd ever done before. And I basically had juice for 5 days. And I remember thinking, like, who am I? What happened to me? Because I was always like, I have to eat as soon as I'm hungry. I get hungry all day long. I always have snacks in my bag, my pocket, something somewhere. I know where I'm going to get my next meal or the next food that I'm going to eat. And here I was doing a cleanse, and I was feeling absolutely fine on urine and juice. And I was juicing my own stuff. So I had green juices and I had fruit juices, but I was juicing my own things. Didn't even want to eat a piece of fruit. Like, this is bizarre. And yet, but the cleanse was so easy. It was so fluid. It was so flowing. My body was really okay. And at the end, even, I finished it and I'm like, I really would be fine if I just keep eating juice or drinking juice and eating some fruit. I think whatever was going on in my life I didn't do that for very long, but I want to try that this year. So I'm going to do the flush in April and see what happens with that. And you mentioned, I mean, I send out an email to people, and if I'd be perfectly happy if you want to the link to where it's accessible on my website. That's absolutely fine with me if
Beautiful. Yeah, I
people
would
to
love
find it.
I would love that. I know after listening to this, I'm sure there will be people that are curious, at least want to see the protocol, if not do it. So
Yeah.
thank you for
So,
that.
and if people are familiar, there's a great book by Andreas Moritz. He's the most well-known person that I know of who has championed this, researched it, worked with people over a very long period of time, and to show the benefits and prove the benefits of a cleanse. The protocol that I was taught is similar. It's not exactly what he has in the book. I've taken what I was taught and I have added to it over the last 8 years and put in the urine therapy information. So there's that. And on my site, with the link, it you can download it for free, but there's also a donation link if you want to leave a donation. So it's very much up to you and what works for you. But
Yeah, thank you for that generosity and sharing it. And it's really, I want to go back to what you were just saying, because what I have found with cleansing, any kind of cleansing. So when I, share with people, one of the things that, why not do the cleanse? I'm all about it being easeful, nourishing, and self-compassion. Right. I was like, I love that you shared about the potato chips. We all have those moments during cleanses, right? One day I was really craving French fries and sushi, and I was like, what? They don't even go together, but you have these moments anyway. So I love that self-compassion there that
yeah,
you shared. Just see you. I see you. Good
yeah.
job. It matters. Thank you, Kuan Yin. Okay. But is the freedom.
Mm,
There's a personal freedom that comes with cleansing. I used to be someone that had to have snacks. I used to be someone that would get hangry, right? We have these,
yeah.
and that if I wasn't going to eat, I wouldn't be me. I wouldn't be able to be normal. I wouldn't be able to, right, just be this loving person that I am, because I needed to eat, right? And the cleansing year after year, any type of cleansing, right, has freed me from that. If I'm
Mm,
not, if I don't have a snack, guess what? I'm gonna be fucking fine.
yeah.
Like, it doesn't even matter. You know what I could do? Go to the bathroom. I could pee and drink my pee if I'm really hungry. I
Yep.
don't need anything. So the amount of freedom, and then this year I realized that cleansing year after year is actually, that I think is what helped me release being an addict. Like, I was a smoker. When I first started cleansing, I smoked through my first cleanses. And after cleansing and getting healthier year after year, it, as Ayurveda says, it fades away, right? You release what's
Mm,
not serving you. And it was easeful. It wasn't like I have to quit. And it was like, oh, I don't want or need this anymore. And I think cleansing was a huge part of that. Now, a lot of people, well, we're all addicted to something, right? Most of
yep.
us are addicted to something.
Yep.
And, it's, if you have trauma with addiction, I just want to throw it out there, like, cleansing can't necessarily heal all of that. You might
Yeah.
want extra support. I want to make sure that that's clear. Anyone listening to this later. And for me, I think cleansing was like one of the main things that helped me release addiction
Yeah.
and addictive thoughts.
Mm,
The freedom of not feeling like I need to eat or I need anything.
yeah. Absolutely. And the shift, it is like it's progressive. It doesn't all happen the first time. And so there is that sense of I'm going to work with my body seasonally. I'm going to let myself evolve over time. There's no rush, there's no end goal. I'm not trying to get somewhere. I'm experiencing what this is as I do it, knowing that I will be my body, I can trust my body and where I'm going and how this is flowing. The yeah, the one of the things that has really shifted for me is the difference between hunger and emptiness.
Mm,
And that just even the last 2 days of going into the fast that I'm doing right now is my body gives me a signal. I'm like, oh, I'm hungry. And I go, wait a minute. Is that hunger or am I just noticing my own emptiness? And does that emptiness need to be filled by food?
mm-hmm.
Am I actually okay? Is this my mind saying you haven't eaten? Would you like to eat? We like chewing. Chewing is good. Maybe you should chew something. Like the most ridiculous thoughts come into your head. And they're like, but do I need anything? What else can I do right now? And is this need? If I don't do this, am I going to get anxious, frustrated, irritated? Well, then what else am I anxious, frustrated, or irritated about in my life? Because if food is going to soothe it, then it's going to still be there later. I'm not addressing the thing that's coming to the surface.
Not getting to the root. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even share about that, but as in the last 48 hours, so I had one day of just feeling amazing. And I still felt amazing the next 2 days. But in the last 2 days was where I started getting all the downloads
Mm,
about my emotionally, spiritually, like other things going on in my life. Cause I always give myself some space when I cleanse. And this one, I feel like I had less space than I usually give myself. I'm about to go on this big trip.
mm.
And tomorrow's my birthday, so like there's a lot going on.
Happy birthday.
Yay, I know. Another time around the sun. Woo. Thank you. Yeah, so I feel like there was less space, but I still got all of like I journaled, I encourage everyone to do video voice journaling, like press record and share
Mm,
seasonally, especially if you're on a growth path, because there's a lot changing, right? And it's nice to go back. For me, I've found it so helpful to go back and see like, oh man, last spring, this is what I had to say. Interesting. And now
mm,
I'm here. And I love that. And it helps me continue to be my own beloved, right? To be so self-compassionate and proud of myself.
mm,
So I did that. Yes, it was like I had a voice journaling session, I had a video journaling session, I had actual like writing, and it was because I was getting so many of those insights. Like what you're saying is like, why, why am I wanting to chew something in my mouth? What is the emptiness? What else am I feeling? What is the deeper thing going on? Right. And some of those questions didn't get answered while I was still cleansing and purging. But then 2 days after, it was like, oh, here's a bunch of answers for you.
beautiful.
I know. And I love that part too. I love that part of cleansing. And we do, as I think, especially divine feminine rising, part of that energy is about giving yourself that space after the
Mm,
right? Digesting life, giving yourself time to do nothing. And so hard for us when we first start. And I think that's another gift, that when you first start cleansing, you start to learn of, oh, I can give myself some space,
mm,
downtime, right? When you first have new cleansers, isn't that like a huge thing? That's one of the
yeah.
huge things, I think. For me,
Yeah.
it was
Integrating.
yeah, yeah. And we need
Yeah.
that integration time because of, especially becoming, as we're learning how to be aware beings and conscious beings in this reality, we need that time to integrate.
Yeah. No, all
Just
of that's landing a lot. Yeah. And this is part of where a lot of the cleanses that have hit mainstream society, because there's so many that I'm sure some people are like, oh, another cleanse. Like, what do you think you're doing? Why do you think that's necessary for your body? And because they're shown to they're presented as if it's another thing like going to the gym.
mm,
It's a health kick. It's for your health, but it's not presented as this is for your spirit. This
mhm.
is for your deeper self understanding and knowing of who you are. This is for self inquiry and the spiritual path.
It's true. And the last 2 or 3 years that I've led it, when I meet people and I'm sharing in person, I'm like, well, they're like, what do I need to do for the cleanse? And I'm like, well, it's kind of up to you what you need to do for the cleanse. Like, I'll help you find that within you. But really, it's the cleanse. This is a spiritual thing. So whatever it is for you, if it's literally just taking out meats because you're a meat eater, that will be a beautiful first cleanse, right? And you can do that for 1 to 3 weeks. Anywhere in there is beautiful, right? So for me, my cleanses, it feels like the fall is more like a punchy karma. It's kitchery, it's the oil, it's
Mm-hmm.
the wind is up, everything is shifting in the fall. I really want that groundedness, and I want the mono diet, and I love that. And I think for the spring, it's going to be this type of liver lighter cleanse and releasing. And I definitely did release some excess
Mm,
emotionally, physically, mentally.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but I want to encourage anyone listening to this, like it really can be so simple, such a simple cleanse of maybe literally taking one thing out, adding one thing in, and just noticing, giving yourself a little extra space for self-inquiry, journaling and noticing. And it nourishes our spirit on such a deep level.
Yeah. And that's nothing to do with the liver cleanse. That's just starting to understand cleansing.
Yeah, period. Just
Yeah.
basic. So you started cleansing 10 years ago or 8 years ago, or when was your first
Yeah, I
cleanse?
think the first cleanse I ever did was the liver cleanse, and I, in some ways, I wish I'd tried. Well, actually, I not I wish. I tried to do fasting at various points before that, like in my 20s, and I got hangry every time, so I never did it. I never was able to do it. And there was now I realize I'd been doing urine therapy for about probably a year and a half when I did the liver cleanse, and I think that for me, that's what made it possible for me to get past a couple of days, even while being able to eat fruit and veg.
Right, because it
I,
helps you not get hungry.
yeah, but otherwise, yes, if I had known that I could do a cleanse just by eliminating meat or dairy or both or sugar, or actually that's true, I did a sugar cleanse years before, so I just took out sugar. I
Caffeine.
had done that.
Yeah,
Yeah, take out caffeine, take out, oh, there's so many ways you can, because it's about the awareness
it is.
and the self-care and then being compassionate when you're like, well, I want that thing. And then going, but why
Why,
do you want it?
why
What
do
is
I
it
want
doing?
that?
Yeah,
Why?
yeah.
What is it going to do?
Yeah, and it's not about self-denial. It's this question of, it's this self-inquiry, and it's shared in all the traditions. Like whether it's Ramadan where they're fasting every day during the day and then they eat at night, or whether it's in Japan, there's I was reading something about how traditional fasting is for different periods, and then in Christianity, the fasting during Lent where you give up certain foods as well. Like it's in every major religion that you fast at some point. It's part of the spiritual process. This isn't some new fad. This is part of what humans have done since the beginning of time.
Hmm. Yeah, and it is a great way to live longer and have a healthier and enjoy your experience of being alive. There is
Yeah,
so many benefits, and
yeah,
we are remembering, really
yeah,
coming back to remembering
yeah,
this ancient wisdom and ways. So,
yeah.
yeah, thank you so much for chatting
Mm.
about all of this. I hope that we covered enough things to entice some people to maybe cleanse if you've never cleansed, and maybe try a liver cleanse. Uh, I lead a cleanse every fall and spring. You lead one, right? So
I'm not as, I haven't become regimented in terms of leading them for other people yet. I'm really good for myself, but I will be offering more of that as well. So thank you for
yeah,
also giving me that inspiration to go, yeah, I want to do this with groups of people more. So
it's nice. It's really a nice thing to have the container, the compassion and love uh when you're first cleansing. It's
yeah,
nice to have a group of accountability. And that doesn't mean you can't just follow a protocol and do it by yourself. You can, and you have to have a little bit of, grit. Be really ready to do it, and if you're like, I don't have that, or I've never cleansed, I think it's great to do it with others, with friends. So
mm,
when I decided to lead it every fall and spring, is because I knew I was going to do it every fall and spring anyway. So I was like, well, might as well, might as well
yeah,
invite my friends to join me because this is powerful. So you can always, if you're listening to this, you can always cleanse with one of us in the future if you're a little nervous to do it on your own, but you have everything you need to do
yeah.
it on your own if you want.
Yeah, wonderful. No, thank you so much for this conversation. I find talking to you really fun and nourishing for me as well.
Well,
And we're geographically very far apart on Turtle Island, but I love the fact we can connect this way.
yeah, me too. Thank you for finding the time to share.
Yeah.
I look forward to our next conversation. Who knows what it'll be about?
Yeah, after you get back from your training, I want to hear about that. Definitely.
Okay.
That
Yeah,
sounds amazing.
I'm excited. I know I need a lot of days to integrate that for sure.
Mm, yeah. Mhm.
Thanks, Megan.